Hey everybody, today I'm in Fishers, Indiana, and specifically right along the Cheney Creek Trail in the Cheney Creek Natural Area, and it runs right along the Nickel Plate Trail. I can see it through the trees over here behind me. And I'm starting here today to help explain how I would explore Fishers. And how do you explore Fishers if you're here visiting for just a couple of days? Well, you can't. I mean, you can't thoroughly explore all of Fishers, but you can certainly in a couple of days gain a pretty good familiarity of it. So this video here is going to walk you through how I feel like you should explore Fishers just to get a sense of the personality. And in this particular video, we're going to be looking at West Fishers. There's another video for East Fishers, but while there's no designation for West Fishers and East Fishers, in my mind, when you stay west of I-69, that's essentially West Fishers. And West Fishers is a little older, more established. And then as you go further east of I-69, it's not like it's all brand new, but it gets newer the further you go east. So just like this Cheney Creek nature area, this natural area, my kids and I, years ago when they were really young, we used to scooter up and down this path and walk through the woods. There's some really cool trails and an awesome pond. And then the Nickel Plate Trail right here next door was a set of train tracks that the Nickel Plate Railroad used, and you could take from Fishers, downtown Fishers, down to the State Fair in August for the couple weeks that the State Fair is actually open. So this was established. This is older than what that newer part of the Nickel Plate Trail actually is. So things like this have been here for a really long time. And then other parts of Fishers and West have been here for a much longer period of time. So this list, though, of places that you can visit is pretty comprehensive, and it's actually a physical list. I've got, well, it's a PDF, so you could print it out and become a physical list, but it's a list that I give to people when they say, we're coming into town, we want to explore Fishers and try to figure out if it's a fit for us or not, and if it is, where we'd really like to be in Fishers. So these are the places that I would say can help you get a sense of the personality of Fishers. It's not like you're going to spend a ton of time at each one of these places, like the Cheney Creek or the Nickel Plate Trail. Maybe you'll walk up and down it a little bit, or maybe you'll go to a park and spend a little time, burn off some steam with your kids. If you have your kids with you, if you don't have kids, you may not be as interested in the parks, but it'll at least give you a direction, a place to go, so when you come to Fishers, you're not just exploring randomly. It's a place you can pop in your GPS and, one, give you that organization. Number two, really just know they exist and know that a place like Fishers has these places. And then really number three, once you're there, it's best to explore the area a little bit and notice what's around it. What are the housing options like? Is everything mature around it for the most part, where the trees are older and the homes are older? Or is it a newer area where the trees aren't as mature and the homes, of course, are much newer, and the neighborhood feel? It starts to get to the point where it's very subjective and it's a matter of opinion as to what's nice and what's not nice. I would say pretty much all of Fishers is really quite nice, but some people like certain parts of Fishers over others, and that's not something that I can tell you is right or wrong, because it isn't right or wrong. You like what you like, but you need to spend some time trying to figure out what it is that you like. So this PDF of places I can give to anybody, and have given to a lot of people coming into town, and I can give it to you too. But you just have to reach out any way that you know how. All the contact descriptions or the contact information is in the description below, so you can check that out if you want a copy of this list. But in this video, we are going to walk through the list, and as we go through each place, I'll explain what it's like around it, what some of the housing options might be like, and just generally what your impression might be once you get there. And first on the list is going to be Holland Park. All right, so I'm in Holland Park now, and the sun is the morning, so the sun is just brutalizing my eyes at this point. I've actually got a maintenance truck here behind me, probably wanting to get past me. I've got, if you notice, softball diamonds over here on one side, got baseball diamonds here on the other side. But Holland Park is a very, very happening park in Fishers. So it's the oldest municipal park, and it's a place that if you're out exploring Fishers, it's a pretty good spot to come and blow off some steam. Over here behind me, over in the distance over there, that's where you've got the playground, the splash pad. There's some soccer fields going over that way. Behind me, you've got a shelter that you can actually rent out. Air conditioning there, really nice bathrooms too. And back this way, got our basketball courts. And then back over this way, let the trash truck here move on out of the way. Soccer fields over there on that side. Got pickleball, and actually the pickleball, which has exploded across the whole country. It's super crowded. There's a ton of people playing pickleball. And then a wooded area over on the other side. And it's not a wooded area that you can't go into. You can actually go in there, have a picnic, or just get in the shade a little bit, because there's not a ton of shade out here in this park other than that. But it's mown tightly. You don't have to worry about poison ivy and long grass or anything. It's really pretty nice. So a good spot if you're out exploring Fishers, especially if you've come from really nearby downtown Fishers, which is just off to the east for the most part, and a little bit to the south, right over that way. It's actually walking distance from here. I would say, it's not like a block away, but a little over that, not too bad. Certainly walking, and you can bike over there too. But good spot to come hang out a little bit. But the reason I would send you over here if you're exploring Fishers is to come to this park, realize that it's here, and then explore all of the neighborhoods and the houses around Holland Park, because it's pretty interesting. I mean, they call it the heart of Fishers, and what that really means is that it's kind of older Fishers. So for the most part, most of the homes in this area for Fishers are going to be older. So predominantly through this neighborhood, and this is actually a gigantic subdivision made up of really even different parts within it, but for the most part it's all called Sunblessed. Biggest neighborhood in all of Fishers, has the most number of homes, but predominantly you're looking at homes that were built for the most part in the 80s, 1980s. And you'll get some older homes in Fishers, and maybe even in this area, homes that are built in the 70s, 60s, and 50s. But honestly, there really aren't that many of them. And actually, you can get into some of those 50 styles homes. I don't even know what I'm saying here. 50s built homes, let's say, over in the downtown proper area, right dead smack in the heart of Fishers. But there aren't that many because there just weren't that many people here in the 50s or the 60s. But as you get into the 70s and 80s, you get a few more people in here, and then this neighborhood's built out. Now you can get some homes in here that are built in the early 90s as well, but for the most part, if you're looking for this particular vintage, and honestly a smaller home, so you can find some homes in here that are 3-bed, 2-bath, ranch, 1,500 square feet. But you can also find 2-story homes in here that are over 2,000 square feet. You might find some basements, and some homes don't have basements. It's kind of a mix all through here. But if you're looking for that vintage, and then also that price range, this is one of the less expensive places to be in all of Fishers. So if your budget is $500,000 or less, you'd have some opportunities through here. Now, unfortunately, it's not a giant area. It's not absolutely huge. If you go a little bit further west of this, you'll get over to Allisonville Road, and then eventually the White River, which is going to be the border of Fishers. And then a little north of here, you get all the way up to 146th Street. Following Allisonville Road, just to the west of us, up to the north, that's where Prairie is, which is one of the stops that you can certainly make in your exploration of Fishers. But that's just to the north. In fact, there's an occasion here, in fact, most of the time, when Prairie is open, their hot air balloon, you can see it from this park, just over the trees behind me, pretty easily. It's that close. But as you get up that way, the homes are still a little bit older. You can, of course, find a newer one here or there, but it's not going to be a whole lot of brand new construction neighborhoods, with just a few small exceptions. There is a brand new construction neighborhood just off 126th Street, just north of here. Very rare though, honestly. But as you get up that way, then the homes are more 90s, right around 2000. But this whole segment, all the way down from 116th Street, which is just barely to the south of here, south of that, a lot of 80s, very early 90s homes, all the way down to 96th Street. Of course, as you get down to 96th Street in this part of Fishers, there aren't that many homes. But then as you get further north up to 146th Street, all very, very residential and a little bit older. And so this little stretch, or this little section on the west side of Fishers, is sort of the original Fishers. It's much older. And of course, like I said, it's usually less expensive. As you get further to the east, especially when you cross I-69 and go way to the east, Fishers just gets, for the most part, newer and newer and newer. And the feel changes dramatically. And then the price ranges, they vary dramatically. It's a little bit, on average, more stable over here on this particular side. But certainly a good spot to go. Again, just to blow off some steam. Like I said, they got the playground back there. I can hear some kids on it. Even though it's early in the morning, it's still a super nice morning to be out. But a good place to stop and explore around. You can even take a walk all the way around the park. It's a little over a mile, I think, like 1.25 miles to go all the way around the park. They call it a trail, but it's more of a sidewalk, but it's still pretty nice. And the whole park itself is pretty big. It's over 30 acres, 34, 35 acres, something like that. So not a small spot at all, but a great place to come and explore West Fishers and just get a feel for what some of these neighborhoods actually look like. All right, on to the next. Now, filming and driving isn't really something that you should be doing on a regular basis for safety, but if you're out exploring Fishers, you're probably not going to be doing your own filming, but you could film some of the things just for your memory, just to get a feel for a certain area and then document that somehow. But driving is what you're going to be doing, without a doubt. Fishers, you can certainly bike some of it, you can walk some of it, especially in certain areas. It has a lot of walkability, but walkability is a subjective thing. It doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Some people just want to walk around their neighborhood. Other people want actual trails. But one thing is for certain, is that if you live in Fishers, you will notice that you pretty much need to own a car. It's absolutely something that has to happen. It is just car heavy. You have to use that for your transportation to get around. Well, so on this bright, sunny day, I am now downtown Fishers, and this is another stop that, to explore Fishers, you absolutely have to make. In fact, right now, I am getting ready to cross the street, and just in front of me is the amphitheater. This is the Nickel Plate District, so really downtown proper in Fishers. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's just right off to my left. The sun is just sort of in the camera right now. The Nickel Plate District is what really most of the downtown, the main downtown area of Carmel is called. And the amphitheater here is sort of the centerpiece of it. And unfortunately, when I'm meeting people, clients, people moving here, and we go through downtown Fishers, you can't see this amphitheater from 116th Street. So I'm standing on the stage right now, and back behind me, past the flag, past the green, which is where you'd sit in a concert, because they actually have some pretty big concerts here. And all through the summer, a lot of the nights a week, for sure. And this, by the way, this amphitheater here, every single major city on the north side of Indianapolis has its own, but this one, it blows all of them away. This place is unbelievable. So, but 116th Street is just on the other side of the new government building being built. You can't see all of this back here. So I tell people you have to come back here. So when you're exploring Fishers, you have to go all the way through it. And you can either do it on foot, as all of this downtown area of Fishers is very walkable, so you could park your car or walk around, just kind of get a better feel for it. but there are some shops here, there are restaurants here, obviously plenty of things to do like this through much of the year. Maybe the dead of winter it slows down, but the farmers market is going to be out here on the weekends. You have concerts going on. You have different events other than just concerts here in this particular area of Fishers as well. But a super cool place to visit. But it's just something to poke your head in and take a look at. And one thing you will notice though about Fishers, and a lot of other cities too, of course, but downtown Fishers in particular, a lot of construction, a lot of improvements. So if you were to look at this thing 3 years ago, and whenever you're viewing this video, right now, what it looks like and what it could look like maybe 2 or 3 years from when you finally visit or when you watch this video, of course it's going to look different. Not dramatically, but you'll notice additions. Like the public library is right over here, just off my shoulder. Huge expansion going on with that and improvements. It's actually a super awesome library. We used to live in Fishers a long time ago. Not all that long ago, but we lived in Fishers a long time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And we visited the library a lot. And it's changed pretty dramatically here in the past 5 years or so. A lot of improvements. But you're not going to be able to enjoy every single thing there is in downtown Fishers. But if you live here, you can. But you don't have to be a Fishers resident to enjoy this. So people come over from Carmel, come down from Westfield and Noblesville and Indianapolis to enjoy what's going on right here, just because it's incredibly family friendly, it's high energy, but it's also very safe. It's also not downtown New York City, Manhattan. It's not that busy, but it's got an energy to it. It definitely does. And there is a busyness about it, even though this morning, this is a random Tuesday morning, like 9:30 or whatever, and not a whole lot's going on, obviously. So a little quiet at this point, but Friday, Saturday, and even the evenings through the summer, it's going to be hopping. So that would be a really good time to come down here and visit. But as far as living goes, when you want that walkability, that means something different to a lot of people. But if you want to walk to shops, restaurants, and activities like this, you're a little bit more limited, unfortunately, in this downtown Fishers area. One of the stops, of course, told you to make is Holland Park, which is very close by here, and all of the homes and the neighborhoods that surround it. You can walk from there, but even in some of those neighborhoods, it's going to be a little bit of a walk to get over here. So you're talking half mile, mile. So whatever is short to you, whatever's long to you, you just have to keep that in mind. And a lot of these buildings back here behind me, those aren't condos, those are apartments. So you could certainly come here and rent and have a lot of walkability. But if you want to own something, you're going to be a whole lot more limited in this area. Now you can bike to here, bike to this particular part from a lot of West Fishers pretty easily through neighborhoods, and you don't have to be on any major road, and you can snake your way back over here. And then the Nickel Plate Trail, which is complete from the northern part of Fishers at 146th Street right now, although it's going to go through Noblesville. So you could get into Noblesville and then some of the trails that Noblesville has, and you can actually connect all the way over to the west to the Monon. I'll do another video at some point about the interconnectivity of a lot of the trails, but it's going to be pretty cool eventually. But the Nickel Plate Trail runs right through downtown Fishers. And I'll have a whole other video of the updates in downtown Fishers and more about the Nickel Plate Trail, but it will extend beyond 96th Street and into Indianapolis and deep into Indianapolis, where you get even to downtown Indianapolis through the Nickel Plate and then jumping over to another trail to get there. So if you live south of here in some neighborhoods, you could jump on the Nickel Plate Trail and come up here to the downtown part of Fishers. So you've got some options there too, but certainly a place to come and see, just to see what Fishers is like. It feels very new, it's more contemporary, and that would be a stark contrast to something like downtown Zionsville or downtown Noblesville, which are more vintage. They are super cool as well, but they feel very different. Carmel and Fishers are much newer, and like I said, much more contemporary, and so that's the feel you're gonna have going through here. So a great place to come, maybe to have lunch, have dinner, hang out with the kids if you're here in town with the kids, but also just to get a feel for what this particular part of Fishers is like. A lot is going on through here. All right, so here I am at the entrance of Prairie. You can see the sign right here behind me. And this would be a spot that you need to come and see, just to see that Fishers does offer this, although Conner Prairie is not something that just Fishers residents get to do. There are people from Carmel, Indianapolis, Westfield, Noblesville, Brownsburg, I mean everywhere, all over the place, coming out here to visit Conner Prairie. It is a super cool place. It's one of those living history type facilities. So they've got an old village, kind of like the old settlement in Fishers, and they do a lot of stuff with that, simulations, what it's like on the prairie and the first settlements. But then this symphony on the prairie over here is really another huge reason why people from all over will come here, because they have a huge amphitheater other than just the living history part of it. By the way, the living history part of it, they have events there all year long, special ones. We went just this last Halloween. They've got a big headless horseman type of event, attraction, which is super fun. They have all kinds of games and things to do for the kids, but they take you on a wagon through the old town or the old settlement, and the headless horseman comes out, chases you. It's really pretty funny and pretty fun. But anyway, so this Conner Prairie, other than all of the things that it has to offer, and again, people come here from all over the place. Symphony on the Prairie is one of the big things that draws everybody here during the summer, because the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra plays here, and then they have special events associated with them too, where they have tribute bands and all kinds of stuff. It is a super fun thing to do. It's a good date night thing to do with your boyfriend or girlfriend. There's a school bus, tons of field trips here, not to the Symphony on the Prairie, but to Conner Prairie without a doubt. In fact, off in the distance over there, I can see probably 10 school buses. So there's probably a ton of field trips here at this point. But the Symphony on the Prairie, you can come with your kids. Definitely awesome thing to do. And there's just thousands of people sitting out there on the lawn listening to music. It's in the evening. During the summers, it is a fun event. But everybody comes all over to Conner Prairie. But if you're exploring Fishers, this is a good spot to come to. Not that you might come to an event here if you're just here for a couple of days exploring, but to see this particular part of Fishers. We are on the western edge of it. If you go deep into Conner Prairie here, which I'm not going to do right now, get in there, you pay admission and all that kind of stuff, but if you get all the way on the other side of this whole property, that's the White River. And the White River, which runs for the most part north and south, right along the edge, the western edge of Fishers. So it makes up the physical western border of Fishers. And this road, which you can hear all of these cars in the background on the microphone, I'm sure, this is Allisonville Road. So you can go a little west of Allisonville Road and still be in Fishers without a doubt. So the White River, while it runs north and south for the most part, it kind of snakes its way to the northeast and snakes its way to the southwest. So there's a little bit more to Fishers west of Allisonville, south of here, definitely. But north of here, not really. So that White River cuts in over to the northeast and pretty much locks in its border at this particular part. But it's a good road to drive up and down. For one, for conversations that, you know, if we're talking that we might have, oh, that's a mile east of Allisonville Road, you'll know which road we're talking about. This is a major north-south road in Fishers. It's also a really pretty road through here. But the other thing to notice about Allisonville and the White River is that you just can't cross the White River wherever you please, wherever you want. So if you want to get over into Carmel, you've got from this location right here, we're a little north of 126th Street, you've got to go up to 146th Street and then travel west across the bridge. If you come down here to the next major road, which is 126th Street, it's not going to seem like a major road because you can't turn right. You'll just go straight into the forest and eventually over there, other properties and to the White River. You just can't cross it at 126. You can sure go east. You could take a left and go that way and take 126th Street over to the north end of the downtown part of Fishers. You can see the YMCA, you get to State Road 37. 126th Street goes really, really far east in Fishers, but it dead ends right here at Allisonville Road. And then if you go down a little further, let's say you get down to 116th Street, there's your other crossing point. You can go to 116th, take a right, and you'll notice there's a lot more of Fishers. That's the southwest last remnants region of Fishers, but eventually, not that far to the west on 116th, you'll see the bridge and you cross the White River. But if you continue down Allisonville and you get to 106th Street, you'll notice the same thing like 126. You can turn east, you could go left, and you could take it all the way really far to the east, honestly. You'll cross I-69, you go over to Cumberland, you'll cross State Road 37, which is 69 at that point. They're combined, but you can just continue on to the east, to the east, to the east. But you can't turn right. You can't go back here to the west because the White River is going to be in your way, and there is no bridge across. 106th Street does continue over in Carmel, but you can't cross the river there. So then the next stop going down Allisonville is going to be 96th Street. And 96th Street has a bridge, so you could get across it and get over to what's the southern border of Carmel and the northern border of Indianapolis. So you have 96, 116th, and 146. So it's good to travel up and down Allisonville just to realize that, to get some familiarity when exploring this western part. There's another school bus from Crawfordsville. Not too far over to the west. Actually pretty far from here, but Indy Metro at least, or pretty close to Indy Metro. So this is a good spot just to see that it's here, and also to get that familiarity with this road and also those bridges to cross that White River. Ritchie Woods Nature Preserve. So this place is on the list, not necessarily so you can see exactly what's around it, but I guess a little bit of that, because there is quite a bit around Ritchie Woods, that's for sure. So there's some neighborhoods nearby. If you get to the south of it, 96th Street is really close, so you don't have a whole lot of Fishers left, just barely south of this. But just being built on the other side of these trees and the Prairie over there is the Andretti World Headquarters, so gigantic racing facility. Indianapolis Metropolitan Airport, that is a giant mouthful, but we call it Indy Metro here, is just off this direction, which is off to the west of where I'm standing right now on one of these trails going back through here. And small public use airport, and there's plenty of traffic that comes in and out of there, small airplanes usually, but there's some jets that'll take off. And if you're at a neighborhood just to the west of it, it's one of the things that you need to make sure you're aware of at least. So if you come here and you're looking at neighborhoods nearby Ritchie Woods, you can certainly find them, but they're mostly to the west and to the north. In fact, I used to live just to the north of here and used Ritchie Woods years ago, actually quite a bit. So when I used to run a whole lot more, I would run from my house to Ritchie Woods and then back through some of these trails. I mean, it is just gorgeous through here. So I'm gonna take this little hickory trail is what it's called. And it would be a longer run because I'd run maybe 2-3 miles or so, something like that through here and a lot of the trails and then back to the house, which was roughly a mile or so away. So it started to add up. But anyway, this is just more of an example of you've got kids or not. There's actually a ton of people here this morning. It's a weekday morning, and I don't see any kids. In fact, I know you don't see anybody right now, but I can hear some people behind me. I passed about 30 people coming in, and no kids at all. So everybody was in here just walking and enjoying the place, and this is on the list really mostly just for that. So you can see how much is on the outside of this park, of this whole nature preserve, but also the fact that there are places like this in Fishers, and it's super surprising, especially when you get into a place like downtown Fishers, or you're going up I-69 or State Road 37. It just seems pretty busy in those locations, and also really commercial in those locations. But you've got places like this with cobwebs, spider webs some on my face. You've got places like this in Fishers, and this isn't the only one. So it's not like you can come to Fishers and visit every single park or every single piece that it has to offer, but the list that I've got going here are just some of the highlights, just some of the things that you can notice about the variety that Fishers has, which is a little surprising to people. I think some people that even live in the Indy Metro that don't know Fishers very well don't really know that Fishers has a lot of these things. But there's some other parks like nearby Cheney Creek. Not a big one, but right there next to the Nickel Plate Trail, and you can go off the Nickel Plate Trail through Cheney Creek. There's a creek that runs through it, and I mean, that is a really, really neat little place. Not big, has a big pond that you can go visit, you can fish, a little dock you can fish off of, but a trail, they have a paved one, and they also have some trails that go through the woods. So that's a nice place that we used to actually go when my kids were much younger because it was much shorter. We had the paved part so we could put our scooters on it, and we had a lot of good times through there. But there are plenty of places sprinkled around through Fishers that are a little bit like that. So this is definitely on my list. If you're visiting Fishers, you just need to see a little bit of what's possible.